and welcome to Just Talk Live. We're here with my guest, State Senator Perry Thurston, and our host, Dr. Deborah, and I'm Miss T. Just Talk Live is a show with two cultured women hosting live on virtual guests from all walks of life. This includes topics from current events, politics, sports, race relations, entertainment, and so much more. Glad you could join us. So let's get started. Dr. Deborah.
Thank you, Miss T. And so glad to have you with us today, Senator Thurston.
Yes.
So we've been talking some ever since we got here today. So let's just continue to have that conversation. One question I think I want to start with, and you can decide whether you want to answer it or not, even though he's been telling us everybody that he's got answers. Okay. If you were running for president of the United States, what would be one of the first initiatives that you would tackle?
Well, Dr. Deborah and Miss T, it's wonderful to be here with you, and it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to you this morning or this afternoon.
Yes.
I'm not interested in the president's job right now because I have to represent the people of Senate District 33. However, the past president, Barack Obama, did such a great job as being our president. It's really almost sinful what we have in that office now. So what I think that the first thing I would do is to mend relations with other nations across the world. We have learned rather quickly that what goes on in other places affect us. The world is getting smaller. So if a virus can start out in China and affect us in America, that lets you know that individuals who don't have money need to have health care because they can affect those, the have-nots can affect the haves. But if we're all in this together, then we realize that, we should look out for everybody. And that's why I think it's so important that we work together. And, it's always been said how you treat the least of those. Because now the least of those who are on our front line, who are serving us our food, who are in the grocery store, those are the people who we depend on when we had the shutdown for this epidemic. So I think that's what would be one of my first things, bringing all the nations together.
Wow. That's, it's interesting that you should mention our former president, because I was going to ask you, what would you say you'd learned from his administration that you would use?
Well, a number of things. The Affordable Care Act, the fact that he prioritized that as his number one item, that he tried to get passed, that he actually passed. I mean, the current president has been attempting to dismantle it since he took the office, as well as everything that he's done. If you notice, this current president is trying to dismantle it. But I think that his love for the people, all the people, I think that's what jumps out at me the most. And there were several times during his administration when we had major things to occur, and it gave him an opportunity to address the nation, to actually talk to people about race relations and other things that were important to us, to kind of bring the nation together. Again, not trying to separate us or divide us or having one group pitted against this group. He could actually hold a conversation and make people think out of the box in terms of what they could accomplish if we just put our minds to it.
You said several things in your comment just now, and the first comment you made, you talked about the least of us, and you talked about the world getting smaller based on the epidemic starting in China, but it reached our shores and has affected us as if we were in China, may as well be.
Absolutely.
And so, thinking about then what you just said about former President Barack Obama, how he was trying to bring everybody, he always mentioned talking across the aisles of bringing them closer together. So how would you propose that, since you are not interested in being president, a president who was interested in doing or continuing that legacy of thinking of the world as one place, and bringing people together. How would you propose you would begin to do that?
Well, I think that well, there are a number of ways, but just along those lines, there are those who say that President Barack Obama was wrong the way he did it.
Yeah.
That he should have just say the heck with the other side. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get it done.
Right.
But he had a bigger vision, impression of people saying that, well, if I present this to them and everybody see that it's the right thing, they'll come along. And there are a lot of people who say, well, that was just naive for him to think that, and he should have did more like this president to say, the heck with all the philosophy. I just want to get these judges in here who are going to be able to change the country for years and years to come. And if everything else crumbles, the heck with it. So, but I think that he did have the right idea. But the way I think you have to do this is to be able to tap into issues that affect people. I'll give you an example of what I'm thinking about. Like Amendment 4, felons having the right to vote. One party could not have passed that. It passed with 65% of the population.
Exactly.
That means you had to get Democrats, Republicans, Independents. You had to get NPAs. You had to get a lot of people. Nothing passes now with 65%. Most of the things, even our gubernatorial races, it's been like 2 points. It's like it's close. We're a 50-50 state. But this was 65%. So you have to say, well, what's an issue that affects everybody? You see, because you may think, well, restoration of rights doesn't affect everybody. I don't. Most of the people in this room would not be affected by it because we don't have we don't have felony convictions.
Right.
However, we know people, and you have family members, and that's why the people who advocated for that wasn't necessarily the people who couldn't vote. It was the family members of the people who couldn't vote, and that crossed all lines. So I think we have to tap into issues that affect everybody. I had a guy, we were debating the issue of health care, and we just kept talking about it, and finally I said, well, do you know anybody that don't have health insurance? So, I actually served in Tallahassee with a bunch of millionaires, and I could see, and this was one of the D's, one of my friends as a matter of fact, and I could see his mind going to thinking. And it said to me, he does not know anybody that doesn't have health insurance. And that's what I said. I was like, you don't know anybody. I was like, but see, I've got family members, I know friends, I know people who keep their job just for their health insurance, and if they didn't have it, they wouldn't have it. I know people who go to CVS, that's their doctor's appointment. The emergency room is where they get their treatment.
Right.
If you know people like that, then you know that this is important. So you have to. He was raising his hand over here, so he caught me off guard. But you have to be able to empathize with people, and sometimes it's just knowing people. If you don't, it's hard to. I'll give you another example. In our community, we see the black community. And when I say the black community,
that's what I think,
and the reason I say that is this. Lots of time people see how police treat people in their neighborhood. When the police come to a certain neighborhood, they come to squash the problem. But when they come into the black community, somebody's going to jail. Or maybe getting shot or getting killed.
Right.
So, it can go either way. But so with the all of these cameras now, you get to show people what you've been telling them all along. So that's where the movement is coming from. That's where the young people are being able to actually strike a chord, because it's no longer just someone telling you that they were snatched out of the car and treated this way.
Right.
You see these college students in Atlanta doing it live. You see it when it's happening. So it's not like this person who and I know has a bad history is coming and telling you the police treated me like that. You're like, well, his word against the police word. Well, even if he has a bad history, and you see it for yourself with your own eyes, then you are a little bit more like, wait, this is not right. It hasn't happened to me and my family or in my community, but I'm sitting in my living room and I'm watching it, so everybody can understand this is something that has to be dealt with.
It's funny, when you started out telling your story, you mentioned people experiences with the police has to do with how the police responds to them in their communities. I was looking at a YouTube interview with Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin in 1971, and she made the comment that they were trying to get people to be more friendly toward police in New York, and there was a billboard that says that showed a white cop standing over the little girl, and I guess it was a nice, pleasant little interaction, and the caption read, "And some people call him Pig." She said she wanted to buy a billboard that showed a white cop with his I'll just say with his knee on somebody's neck. It was really with his. He was abusing some black person,
right.
And some people call him Peacemaker. Is what she wanted to,
right.
And so different communities have different experiences, and until it happens to you, it's like it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. What would you give to be the fly on the wall on a conversation with Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin?
Man,
that would be amazing just to be there to hear that conversation.
It was
to see
beautiful.
some of the outtakes like we were having earlier, and without knowing that we were being taped. I would love to hear some of their outtakes that they were having before they went on the record. YouTube, okay.
Oh, and that Baldwin man, don't even get me started on him. The things they talked about then and the things that he talked about in his time the very same conversations. It's amazing. But we digress. So last question for you, because you mentioned police brutality. What are your steps to changing that? What would leadership have to do to rectify this discrepancy between what the Constitution says about individual rights and to liberty and the pursuit of happiness and so forth, and what many people of color don't experience? What would they have to do to change the policing around
Well, I think that you see what's happening now. I mean, it's not like we haven't had the situation with McDuffie, for instance, the McDuffie riots after the police killed Mr. McDuffie down in Dade County. That had to be about 50 years ago. And now we have the same thing. But what has to change is this. And you're seeing it happen with the young people marching. You think about George Floyd. But, there have been many of George Floyd's before George Floyd. But you have to, at some point, I look at that incident as the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. All of the other incidents that had happened before then, you didn't get protests, not only across America, across the nation, the world. Yeah. Everybody is saying, well, enough is enough. So I think that we are in a time period right now where we see it's a crossroads. A massive change can occur. And it's going to require us to think out the box. It's going to require us to think about what could be. What type of law enforcement do you want? I remember one time I was here doing Hurricane Andrew, and I remember seeing the police officers just monitoring the traffic lights because all the lights were off, and you got these people driving, and I was thinking, well, that's the best use of police authority I've seen in a long time. Just the fact that they were there.
Prevention.
Just prevention. Making sure, your parents or my parents didn't get in some type of head-on collision. And that was major. That all it took was, first of all, he's got the authority because he said that he's a police. And so the people are listening to him and going like and everybody want to be careful. But if he wasn't there, it would have been like a dog-eat-dog world. Yeah. So, but I think, what do you expect from law enforcement? And now we have an opportunity to revisit it.
Yeah.
People get a little scared when you say abolish police department. Well, they're really not saying get rid of police. They're saying keep them in their lane. They're saying maybe that police bill of rights need to be addressed. They're saying maybe there shouldn't be immunity if you put your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes and kill him. They're saying there's never going to be another time where we're going to sit quiet for 9 to 12 months while you tell me you're investigating when I'm sitting here watching on camera what happened. Right. What takes you 12 months to charge an officer when it doesn't take you 12 months to charge Ray Ray? Right. So, we're saying what you're seeing is a change, and people are not going to tolerate that anymore. Yeah. And you see from that, the last couple of things that happened in Atlanta and with Mr. Floyd is they were charged right away. So prosecutors have to get more gumption to do the right thing. That's why we need to have individuals in the prosecutor's office, public defenders, judges. We need to have individuals who understand what's going on in the community, and they need to be in all of those positions. So by having them in those positions, you have people bold enough and willing to say, this is an opportunity for a change, and we're going to make that change. Because you're going to always have people pushing against it. Mm-hmm. But you got to do it.
Listening to you talk, I just would, that sounds really nice. But that people kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's exactly right.
And so I think this is my final question. It feels like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I think that it's worse. It's been bad, but I think that it requires us to have the dialogue. And the dialogue is going to determine where we go. But if we don't have the dialogue, then we're going to get the same old, same old. Right. So people are upset about the protesting, and then they're saying the violence after the protest. I participated in the march with Black Lives Matter right here in Fort Lauderdale. And it was over with. Then I read the news to say, okay, there was some conflict afterwards. Well, we've got to be able to have the protests, make the demands, exercise our constitutional rights, and be able to do that without any violence. And it can be done. Now, we've done it in the past, but, power never concedes anything without a struggle. Yeah. And it's going to be a struggle, but it's worth it.
That's U.S. history.
The struggle is worth it.
That's U.S. history.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Great.
Well,
Out of the
look,
box.
I just want you to know, Just Talk Live, you guys have made my day just being here with Just Talk Live. And I know we've got an out-of-the-box question.
Yes, you do.
And I've been waiting on this question.
Okay. Again, Florida State Senator from the 33rd District.
That's correct.
And knowing that you attended Morehouse.
That's right.
And you were a former University of Miami Law School student.
That's right, UM.
Your out-of-the-box question, I'm giving you two.
Two
out-of-the-box questions. So let me just shake it up a little bit. Put one out for you. The first question. If a movie were made about your career, Senator, what would the title be? And why?
Wow. I would think... I wouldn't say from rags to riches, but I would say something about, I grew up in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Okay.
Young guy, played a little ball up there, got a scholarship to Morehouse, and earned the scholarship to the University of Miami's Law School. So my friends and I always talk and say, we're just brothers from the hood who enjoy reading.
Also from the hood.
No, brothers from the hood who enjoyed
reading. Yeah. I like that. I like that. And your second and final question. This is a Uzi. So if you were a woman, what would your strategy for dealing with male-dominated societies?
It's funny you should ask that question. I come from a family of strong women. My grandmother on both sides.
Okay.
I was talking to my daughter. I was telling you, my daughter was over in Africa. She's back here now. and she was talking. We were talking about some land that the family had, and some of my trifling uncles had lost some of the property. And I was telling her that all of the property and all of the land was acquired by my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
And on both sides, they have been like the dominant people in the family. On one side, my grandmother had 16 children.
Wow.
On the other side, it's 8. But all of them, the grandmother is the matriarch. She
Right.
runs everything. But I think that, in business and in life, I think that we as a community, and again, when I say community, I'm talking about the black community. Black women have always been the part who ran things.
Okay.
And when I deal with professional black women, I see the same thing. I think that I was telling this young attorney, she had come to me and she said, she wanted me to, because in my real life I try cases and I've
Exactly.
tried over 200 jury
Wow.
trials, and that's what I do. The politics is something I'm cultivating, but she wanted to say she had saw me trying a case. She wanted some advice, and I told her, I was like, the thing about it is this: you watch other people, but you have to develop your own skill set.
Okay.
How you're gonna be perceived in a courtroom. Something I may do when I'm talking to a jury may come off very differently if you do the same thing. So what I did was I told her to. There's a young attorney, a Caucasian attorney at the time, who was, I believe, was a very good trial attorney. And I said, go watch her trial. You're watching my trial, and you should, and look at my style, because, sometimes the way we interact with the jury, who's mostly doesn't look like us when we're trying the case, and we may have a client who do look like us, to trying the case to a jury that don't look like any of us, and we're the only ones in the whole courtroom that look like us. So my style has to incorporate that in it too. Now she, on the other hand, she's a woman, so she's got to be perceived
Right.
a certain way, and she
Exactly.
doesn't want to be taken for granted, and she's got to be strong, but not so strong that she's going to be the bitch in the courtroom. You know what I mean? Because those are things
Right.
that men don't have to worry
Exactly.
about.
Right.
But at the same token, I told her to watch her and then incorporate what she does.
Right.
So I think that if I was speaking to young women or women, I would say, always have a mentor who has done this
Okay.
and know the pitfalls of doing it, and sort of, don't have to reinvent the wheel with everything.
Okay.
Just learn from those people who are successful.
With that, we thank you so much, State Senator.
All right, thanks for
Perry Thurston.
having me.
We
And I know
appreciate
this
it.
isn't a political campaign, but I am running for office.
Okay.
Y'all
We
make
won't
sure,
forget that.
Make
We
sure
gotta
you
vote.
vote August 18th.
Exactly.
And that you do your census and voting. There you
Done.
go.
Most definitely.
Half
Thank
of
you,
that's
sir.
done.
We
All right,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.